I have no more campaigns to run. My only agenda, I know because I won both of them.
There is President Obama from last year's State of the Union, and ahead of this year's final State of the Union, we talked to the White House Chief of Staff, Denis McDonough. Denis, thanks for joining us this morning. You and your colleagues have said that the president's speech on Tuesday is going to be non-traditional. What does that mean? How will it be different?
Well, George, thanks for having me on the show. He gathered us together late last year, and he said, look, he doesn't want this to be your traditional policy speech that outlines a series of proposals. We'll have a lot of policy during the course of this year. Rather, he wanted to step back and take a look at the future of this country, the challenges we're going through, making sure that we're focused on an economy that gives everybody a fair shot, this changing economy, making sure that we're using all the elements of our national power to keep the country safe. And most importantly, I think, in this election year, making sure that we have everybody able to take part in our democracy, not the select few, because he knows, and this is what he'll talk about on Tuesday night, thematically, the United States succeeds when we draw on all 350 million Americans that we have in this country, wherever they come from, whatever walk of life they are, whatever party they are. So he'll be talking about the future. He'll be very optimistic. He'll be very action-oriented, but it won't be your traditional policy speech per se.
Is he focusing on the long term because he knows he can't get much out of Congress this year?
Well, you know, we'll get some stuff out of Congress this year. If you look back a year ago when everybody on these shows was telling us that we were done after the midterms, we obviously went out and got ourselves a climate deal, historic one at that. We got out an Iran deal. We got a very good budget deal that invests in middle-class families. And we got a Cuba deal, for example, during the course of the last year. So we have just as high hopes for this year. But what he wants to do on Tuesday night is talk about the kind of country that he hopes will be present not just during the course of this year and this election year, but rather over the course of the next 20 years. And he feels very optimistic about this future. And that, by the way, is something that's a little different than some of the doom and gloom that we hear from the Republican candidates out there every day.
They've also promised to undo what the president has done on climate change, on immigration, on guns. How worried are you that the progress you just cited is ephemeral?
Well, look, my job is to worry, George, so I worry every day about a lot of different things. But I think what the next president is going to find when they come in here is that that climate deal united the world for the first time on one of the major challenges we face. On the Iran deal, Iran now does not have a nuclear weapon and has no, if we get all these steps now in the next several weeks ironed out that they have to carry out to get to what we call implementation day, all their paths to a nuclear bomb will be blocked. So we feel really good about these deals, and we think the next president is going to come in here and pick them up where we leave them.
The president also pushing hard on the issue of guns. We just spoke with Senator Marco Rubio. He said that if the president could take away our guns, he would. Your response?
Boy, you know, it's hard for me to keep these guys apart. I've been following all morning on these shows, and the doom and gloom that they're pitching to the American people is both counterfactual and not consistent with what we see every day. This kind of stuff appears to work for their politics, but is not based in any reality. And this assertion that he made to you that somehow the president is going to do that is just not right.
Finally, this issue of El Chapo perhaps being extradited to the United States, and Sean Penn doing that extraordinary interview with him for Rolling Stone. Senator Rubio called that grotesque. What is your response? Mexican authorities are investigating. Do you think the U.S. should investigate as well?
What I think is it's very good news that El Chapo is back behind bars. I was appalled by his bragging, in particular, George, about an epidemic that's sweeping this country on heroin addiction. I was appalled by his bragging to the interviewers in Rolling Stone that he moves more heroin than anybody in the world. We are seeing an epidemic of heroin and opioid abuse in this country. The president's going to get that back in the box. And we hope that Senator Rubio, if he is appalled about this, will stop those in his party who would repeal the Affordable Care Act, which has done more for mental health treatment and addiction treatment and substance abuse treatment than anything that we've seen in decades. And that's a kind of real policy question I'm focused on today. We'll let somebody else sort out what Sean Penn did and didn't do. El Chapo's where he should be. He should stay there. And we got to get this heroin off American streets.
Mr. McDonough, thanks very much for your time this morning.
Thanks so much, George.